So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. Now the idea is that you get to cover your current affairs, but you don't have to spend your entire day just reading the newspaper. Therefore, we shall cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes. Now just watching this lecture would be job half done, because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well. Why? Well, revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram channel. The link to our Telegram channel is given in the comment section below this video. Okay, so let's begin today's discussion. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. Okay, so let's begin. So daily current affairs, 23rd June 2025, Monday. Okay, and here are the topics. So in total, we'll be covering these 5 topics. Okay, number 1 is the closure of Strait of Hormuz. Now, the thing is that the Strait of Hormuz, we have discussed about it. Strait of Hormuz lies close to Iran. Basically, it is part of Iran, and Iran has the ability to close it. And if Iran closes it, then it would have serious global economic repercussions. We'll talk about this. But we have talked about this before also. You'll get reminded of that, okay? Then we'll talk about bunker buster bombs. Now, recently USA attacked Iran, and the bombs that USA used were called bunker buster bombs. The thing is that USA bombed Iran's nuclear facilities. But Iran was cautious. Iran basically buried those nuclear facilities deep inside the earth, underground. That is why USA used these bunker buster bombs, which can destroy underground bunkers as well. Okay, so we'll talk about this technology as well. Then we'll talk about India-Israel weapons trade. Okay, what sort of weapons does Israel exports to India, and what sort of defense partnership is there between India and Israel? Then we'll talk about Keezhadi Excavations. Now, Keezhadi is a village in Tamil Nadu. And the thing is that some archaeological excavations are done in this place, and this has changed our understanding of Tamil history, especially Sangam age. Now, what is that change in understanding, and what are these excavations? We'll talk about this. Okay? And in the end, we'll talk about critical tiger habitat, also known as the core area of a tiger reserve. Okay, so what is this critical tiger habitat? What is the legal framework to regulate this critical tiger habitat? We'll talk about this. So these are the 5 topics that we shall zero in our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with closure of Strait of Hormuz. Okay, now listen to me carefully. You see, the thing is that, well, you know that Israel and Iran are fighting. And Israel has the help of the most powerful country militarily in the world, and that is America. And America is coming to the aid of Israel. And Iran feels alone at this time. So Iran needs some things as a bargaining chip. Okay? Some leverage to bargain with Israel and the rest of the world. Okay? Now, Iran has threatened that if Israel and America do not stop their bombings on Iran, then Iran would close Strait of Hormuz. Now, Strait of Hormuz is basically a naval passage through which 1/5 of the global oil supplies, crude oil supplies, pass. And more than 50% of India's oil comes from that strait. So it is not only bad news for India, it is also bad news for the entire world, including China. Okay? Because Iran is feeling helpless at this moment. Okay, Iran needs something through which it can basically leverage its position. Okay, or through which it can basically extort, for the lack of a better word, Israel and America. Okay, so this is the threat given by Iran. Basically, Iranian assembly has passed a motion that we can block or close down Strait of Hormuz. Now, if Strait of Hormuz closes, then what sort of economic implications would come from it? Okay, we'll talk about that. So let's talk about that, okay? So yeah, closure of Strait of Hormuz. Okay, now as you can see on this map, Strait of Hormuz. So this is Oman, okay, and this is Iran. Now this portion is the Persian Gulf. Okay, this is Arabian Sea. And this narrow water body is known as Strait of Hormuz. Clear? Now, as you can see, around Strait of Hormuz, most of the oil supplying countries are there. Iraq is here, Saudi Arabia is here, United Arab Emirates is there, Qatar, which supplies a lot of natural gas to India. In fact, majority of natural gas imports to India come from Qatar, is here. Iran obviously is here, Kuwait is here. So most of the oil supplying countries are here. And they supply their oil to India, Pakistan, not just Pakistan, India, and countries to the east of India, which includes China. So the oil supplies of India and China and all the other countries in the region come from this narrow water passage. Now, this narrow water passage is between Iran and, as you can see, Oman. Okay. Now, Iran definitely has the power to close down this narrow water passage. Okay. Now, if Iran does so, well, supply of oil from these countries would get blocked. And when the supply would get blocked, what would happen? Because when supply falls below demand, what happens? Prices rise. And prices might rise significantly and hurt India's economy and other countries' economy if Iran decides to close Strait of Hormuz. As of now, Iran's assembly has passed a motion, but Iran has not closed Strait of Hormuz. But Iran has warned that if hostilities continue, if bombing campaigns against Iran continue, well, Iran will someday block Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so this is being used as a bargaining chip. Clear? Now, how significant is Strait of Hormuz for India? Though we have discussed it, okay, in the previous current affairs lectures, since this conflict between Israel and Iran is going on. But still, let's revise that. How important is, well, this Strait of Hormuz for India? You need to know this, that India is the world's third largest consumer of crude oil and depends on imports to meet over 85% of its requirements. So 85% of India's crude oil requirements are met through imports. Okay, and 47% of its crude oil imports come from Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so 85% of India's crude oil requirements are imported, and from this 85%, around 50%, 47% is close to 50%, around 50% comes from Strait of Hormuz. So Strait of Hormuz is like a choke point, okay, through which most of India's energy supply comes. And it's not just crude oil. You see, most of India's natural gas, liquefied natural gas, is imported from Qatar. And as you can see on this map, even for Qatar to supply liquefied natural gas, it has to pass through Strait of Hormuz. So if Strait of Hormuz gets blocked, it would lead to severe crude oil shortages and natural gas shortages for India. And this basically is a real threat to India's energy security. Okay, because, well, these fossil fuels, crude oil and natural gas, they are basically India's energy, right? India produces energy from this. Now, you need to know a few facts also. Okay, top source of crude oil for India. So India buys the most crude oil from Russia, and that has happened in the recent years only, since the start of Russia-Ukraine war. Then it's Iraq, then it's Saudi Arabia, and then it's UAE. India does not buy crude oil from Iran. Okay, so in that regard, we are not dependent on Iran, because India does not buy crude oil from Iran. Since economic sanctions on Iran came from USA, Iran was not able to sell its crude oil, though Iran has the third largest crude oil reserves in the world. 12% of the crude oil reserves in the world are in Iran. But Iran has not been able to use those crude oil reserves to export them because of economic sanctions by USA. Only China had the guts to buy, despite those economic sanctions, to buy crude oil from Iran. Therefore, Iran only has one dominant customer for its crude oil, and that is China. Now, if Iran decides to stop or block Strait of Hormuz, well, then China would also get threatened, because China also gets its crude oil from Iran, from this strait only. Clear? So it is a big problem, big problem. Now, let's revise, how is crude oil important for India's economy? What sort of impact would be there on India's economy if crude oil stops coming to India. Okay, let's talk about that. We know that India's dependence on crude oil, we know about this. But what sort of repercussions would come from crude oil stoppage economically? What sort of economic repercussions that would come from the stoppage of crude oil to India? Okay, so yeah, the impact would be supply disruptions. Now, when the supply falls, as I've told you, price rise of oil. Now, currently, crude oil is around $72 or $73 per barrel. But if this Israel-Iran conflict continues and Iran decides to block Strait of Hormuz, then it might even rise to $120 per barrel, and some experts say it might rise to even $150. And that would significantly destroy India's economy. How? Well, as you all know, that India imports most of its crude oil. So that would definitely increase India's import bill. Yes, if crude oil becomes expensive, that will definitely increase India's import bill. If India's import bill increases, then what happens? India's current account deficit would widen. Current account deficit would increase. If current account deficit increases, India's forex reserves would decline. Plus, India's rupee will depreciate considerably. As soon as import bill rises, or as soon as India's current account deficit widens, rupee will feel the pressure and would decline significantly. And when rupee will decline significantly, all imports in India will become expensive. Clear? So these are the macroeconomic implications. Plus, if crude oil becomes expensive in India, definitely there will be inflation as well. So apart from worsening import bill, current account deficit, forex reserves, rupee depreciation, inflation would also be a huge problem. So India should pray that this conflict should not escalate and Iran should not block Strait of Hormuz. Okay? One more thing, there is some positive news. Yes, even if Iran blocks Strait of Hormuz, well, India can sustain itself for 74 days. How? India's strategic oil reserves can meet about 74 days of country's crude oil needs. So India has stored crude oil in its reserves, which are called strategic petroleum reserves. So India has stored crude oil for emergency purposes only, okay? And the storage site is known as strategic petroleum reserves. Now, in those strategic petroleum reserves, India has stored around 74 days worth of India's crude oil needs, okay? So if Iran blocks Strait of Hormuz, we can sustain ourselves for 74 days. But after that, things are looking bad. Okay? So let's pray that things do not worsen from here. Alright? And now let's move on to next topic, which is basically the reason why Iran has announced that they are going to block Strait of Hormuz. And that is, well, USA bombed Iran. Okay? 3 nuclear sites of Iran. And for bombing these 3 nuclear sites of Iran, America used bunker buster bombs. Now, what are these bunker buster bombs? The thing is that Iran, because it had this insecurity that someday or the other, Israel or America would bomb their nuclear sites. Okay? Therefore, they have built their nuclear sites deep inside the earth or deep inside the mountains, so that even if America bombs, it can only destroy, well, those mountain areas or the ground over the nuclear site, but those nuclear sites won't get damaged. This was the security precaution that Iran took. But America has a particular type of bombs which are known as bunker buster bombs. And these are the most powerful non-nuclear bombs in the world. So the most powerful bombs in the world are nuclear bombs. After that, there are these bunker buster bombs. And bunker buster bombs are only with USA. No other country possesses bunker buster bombs. Okay? And what's so special about these bunker buster bombs? Well, these bunker buster bombs, well, they can destroy a facility that is buried deep inside the earth, 60 meters inside the earth. How so? Okay, let's talk about that. So, bunker buster bombs used by USA to bomb 3 nuclear sites of Iran. You see, as far as military technology is concerned, USA is far ahead of every country. Okay, the kind of weapons that USA has, No other country has. Okay, and bunker buster bombs are just one example. We'll talk about another example as well. Okay, but these are the bunker buster bombs, and what's so special about them? Well, these are very heavy, first of all. Okay, they are around 13,000 kgs. Okay, so it's very difficult to lift them and drop them. They are very heavy. Plus, well, they explode. They don't explode when they hit the ground. When you drop these bombs, they go inside the earth, 60 meters deep inside the earth. Okay, and then they explode. As you can see over here, they'll be dropped and they'll go deep 60 meters inside the earth, and then they'll explode. Okay, so if Iran has built a nuclear facility inside the earth, 60 meters below the earth, well, that facility would be destroyed. Plus, as you all know, that to shield themselves or to shield yourself from enemy attacks, enemy air attacks, well, countries build bunkers where they basically protect their VIPs. So whenever there is an air attack, well, countries, all the VIPs of the country, they hide in bunkers. But these bunker buster bombs can even destroy bunkers as well, and they can even destroy the VIPs hiding in those bunkers. So powerful, that powerful are these bunker buster bombs. Okay, this is this is as far as bunker buster bombs are concerned. Nonetheless, the technical name for these bunker buster bombs that were dropped by USA on 3 nuclear sites of Iran is GBU 57. Okay, massive ordnance penetrator. Okay, bunker buster bombs is just a popular name. Their official name is GBU 57 massive ordnance penetrator. Okay, MOP. Clear? Make sense? So let's talk about them. GBU 57 MOP, massive ordnance penetrator. It is the most powerful non-nuclear weapon. Remember this. Its weight is 13 tons and can penetrate 60 meters of the earth. Now that is a lot. No other country has such a, like, this kind of a bomb. No other country has that. Okay, this is high technology stuff. Clear? Though the most important nuclear facility of Iran, Fordow nuclear facility, is 90 meters deep inside the earth. So many experts say that this bomb that was dropped by USA might not have destroyed Fordow nuclear facility, but you never know, because currently it's the fog of war. Information, I mean, true information is not coming out. All right, because it's fog of war. Israel is doing its own propaganda, Iran is doing its own propaganda, so you don't know the truth. So only after the war, when experts would visit this Fordow nuclear facility, then only we'll get to know whether USA, through these bunker buster bombs, was able to destroy this nuclear facility. Okay. By the way, another special thing, like I said it before, USA has the most advanced weapons in the world. You see, these bunker buster bombs are very heavy. Okay, they can't be dropped from any aircraft, any normal fighter jet. No. The only fighter jet in the world that can drop these heavy bombs is B-2 bomber. And this B-2 Spirit stealth bomber is also only with USA. This technology of a B-2 Spirit stealth bomber only lies with USA. No other country has this quality of aircraft. Many countries have fighter jets. China has 5th generation fighter jets. China is also developing 6th generation fighter jets. But no country in the world has this fighter jet, because this fighter jet has some very special features. Okay, look, it looks like this. This is the B-2 bomber. Don't you think it looks like an alien aircraft? Right? It looks like, it completely looks alien. This is a B-2 bomber, and this B-2 bomber is only with USA. USA doesn't even share this with Israel also. USA is that possessive about this technology. And it is the only aircraft that can carry such heavy bombs. Now this this fighter jet, okay, or this bomber has some special features. Okay, first of all, its looks are out of this world. Okay, it completely looks alien. But it also has some special features. Okay, now B-2 bomber is a long-range stealth bomber. Now, its technology is so complicated and it is so complex that one aircraft requires 2.1 billion each. I mean, the price of one aircraft is 2.1 billion dollars. $1 billion is around 8,500 crores. So this costs around, you see, 16,000 crores. One aircraft, one bomber is 16,000 crore rupees. It is that expensive because the technology is that complicated. Plus, it has very out of this world features. For example, it has low observability. Now, low observability makes it undetectable to enemy radars. So enemy radars won't be able to detect it because it has very low observability. So it will come into your airspace, bomb, and then go back, and your fighter jets or your radars won't even pick anything. Okay, it is undetectable because radars are not able to pick the signatures. Clear? That is why this was used, because if USA would have used any other aircraft, Iran's radars would have picked up the signal and then fired upon those aircrafts. But B-2 bombers have low observability. They have all altitude capability. They can fly at any height. Plus, it has aerial refueling facility. You know, these B-2 bombers, they flew from USA, crossed the entire world, and then reached Iran, and then dropped the bomb. Generally, for its bombing campaigns, USA finds allies in the nearby countries, and USA has air bases in the nearby countries, because it would require a lot of fuel to travel from USA to Iran. But B-2 bombers have aerial refueling capabilities, so you can refuel them in the air. So it can reach anywhere in the world. And basically this usage of B-2 bombers was a signal from USA to all the other countries of the world that we can reach you. Don't think that America is far away from us, so America cannot reach us. America can reach you through these B-2 bombers. Okay, and it has a payload capacity of more than 18,000 kgs. Okay, these B-2 bombers were inducted in American Air Force in 1993. And they were used in 1999 Kosovo War, Iraq War, Yemen War, Libya War, Afghanistan campaigns, and now in Iran as well. Okay. So like I said before, as far as technology of weapons is concerned, USA is far ahead of each and every country in the world, even China. Though China is catching up, but USA is way ahead. All right. And now let's move on to third news item, which is India-Israel weapons cooperation. Okay, India-Israel weapons cooperation. The thing is that India buys a lot of Israeli weapons. Now, during Operation Sindoor, India used a lot of its weapons that were taken from Israel. Therefore, India needs to refill its stock. And that is why India is looking towards Israel to refill its stock. But the problem is Israel is involved in a war with Iran already. So when you're in a war-like situation, you are not a good defense supplier because you need weapons for your own war campaign, right? So therefore, India is just waiting for this war to end. Like I said, this conflict is not just affecting India economically, it is also affecting India's national security because India needs to refill those weapons. But Israel is already busy. Though some weapons are already with India because those weapons were developed jointly by India and Israel. So as far as those weapons are concerned which were developed jointly, India is not worried. But those weapons which were solely imported from Israel, well, their supply is under threat right now. Therefore, India is praying really hard that this conflict ends soon because India's energy security is on the line, India's national security, defense is on the line. Nonetheless, we need to know how much cooperation is there between India and Israel. How much weapons does India buy from Israel? Okay. So let's talk about India-Israel weapons trade. So weapons cooperation. So according to SIPRI data, now we have talked about SIPRI, right? Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Remember, we have talked about it. If you have not heard about it, watch our previous current affairs lectures, okay? So it is a think tank on defense trade. So according to SIPRI data in 2020 to 24, Israel accounted for 3.1% of global arms export and Israel was 8th largest exporter globally. Okay, the largest single importer of Israeli arms. So Israel is the 8th largest exporter, The number one buyer of Israeli weapons is India. Whatever Israel exports to the world, 34% is bought by India, followed by USA at 13% and Philippines at 8%. Okay? Several Israeli companies have partnered and formed joint ventures with Indian companies, which helps keep supplies to India going despite the war. So as far as those weapons are concerned, which are jointly co-produced by India and Israel, their supply is not threatened despite the war. Those weapons which were solely built by Israel and India just imported them, they are threatened. Now, what sort of weapons does India buy from Israel? Okay. So some of these include Sky Striker, loitering munitions, again kamikaze drones, drones that explode on impact, Heron drone, Searcher drone, Derby beyond visual range air-to-air missile, Spice 2000 guided bombs. The Spice 2000 guided bombs were used in Balakot airstrikes after Pulwama. Okay. Spike anti-tank missile, Spider surface-to-air missile system, Barak 8 missile system which were used for air defense in Operation Sindoor, Negev light machine guns, network radio communication, all sorts of things. Okay, as you can see, these are the types of weapons we take from Israel. This is the picture, and this article was published in a newspaper, reputed newspaper, and the title of this article was Brothers in Arms, because India has a very close cooperation as far as defense trade is concerned with Israel. You can see Barak missile, MR-SAM, Spider drones, Falcon AWACS. These are aerial radar systems, okay? Sniper rifles, from guns to bombs to missiles to drones. We buy a lot of equipment from Israel. Clear? That would be all. That's about it, okay? And now let's shift our focus to next news item, which is Keezhadi Excavations. Now, Keezhadi Excavations is a very important topic. You see, as far as history of South India is concerned, well, it was thought that the first period, the earliest period of history in Tamil Nadu, in Tamil country, okay, in Tamil region, was the Sangam age. Now, historians have believed that Sangam age started in 3rd century BC and ended in 3rd century AD or CE. Alright, this was the period. This period of 600 years was the period of Sangam age in southern India. Right? But recently a village near Madurai has been excavated, not just by Archaeological Survey of India, but Tamil Nadu's Archaeological State Department. Okay? They have excavated a village known as Keezhadi. And by excavating that village, we have found a lot of things. First of all, we found out that there was a flourishing urban civilization. Okay? Well-planned towns were there. Okay? After excavating it. Well-planned towns, well-crafted artifacts were there, trade was flourishing, literacy levels were high because, some scripts have been found. Tamil Brahmi script has been found, okay? Written documents or written stuff has been found. So it was a flourishing urban civilization. And this flourishing urban civilization dates back to 5th or 6th century BC. And it has been found that culturally speaking, it is basically Sangam age only. Now, this discovery might push back the date of Sangam age, which earlier historians used to believe was 3rd century BC. Now, this discovery might push the date back to 5th or 6th century BC, because the artifacts found at this excavation site, this archaeological site, the artifacts found over here, well, carbon dating was done on them and they date back to 5th to 6th century BC. Clear? So this revolutionizes our understanding of ancient Indian history. This really changes our understanding of ancient Indian history, and that is why this excavation in a very small village in Tamil Nadu is very important, and that is why we need to talk about it. Alright, so let's talk about it. So Keezhadi Excavations, as you can see on this map, well, Keezhadi is a village near Madurai on the Vaigai river. Clear? Now, first of all, you need to know about Sangam age. So, Sangam age is ancient historical period of Tamil Nadu. Plus, it is also said that it is the first historical period of Tamil Nadu. Now, why do we call it the first historical period? Well, the thing is that when we talk about history is that period or that era in our past which has a written source. Just a second. Okay. Now, in South India and Tamil Nadu, excavations have been done, and we have found so many archaeological sites that date back to, well, 5000 BC, 10,000 BC also, right? We have found artifacts that are 10,000 BC old as well. But then why do we call Sangam Age as the first historical period in Tamil Nadu? Well, the thing is that if you go in past, okay, those past periods for which there is no written records, well, that is known as prehistory. If there is no written records available, then that is called prehistory. History starts when written records are available. For Sangam Age, written records are available from 3rd century BC. And that is why we say 3rd century BC was the beginning of historical age in Tamil Nadu. Clear? But now this date is even pushed back, because earlier date was 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD. But with Keezhadi excavations, the date is pushed back to 6th century BC. And this challenges a lot of assumptions about urban civilizations in India. It was believed that Indus Valley civilization was the only great civilization of India's ancient past. But now, with the discovery of Keezhadi excavations, this is about to change. Clear? Plus, it pushes back the Sangam Age to 5th, 6th century BC. Clear? Now, what sort of findings have been, or what sort of things have been found in these excavations? Some really fascinating stuff. First of all, this civilization was a full-blown urban civilization. Generally, in this period, we find rural civilizations, okay, because people were not that advanced. But this is a full-blown urban civilization. Evidence have been found. Then, there are evidence of trade and craftsmanship also. Okay, there is evidence of literacy also, because written scripts have been found, Tamil Brahmi script inscriptions. Plus, there is cultural continuity with the Sangam Age. So, historians are saying that this is basically earlier version of Sangam Age only. So, we can safely say that this is not an earlier culture. This is Sangam Age only, just the fact that Sangam Age started in 5th, 6th century BC. Alright, makes sense? And that would be all. This is the important part that you should know about this Keezhadi excavation. It is a very significant historic, archaeological find. Okay, very significant. And now let's move on to last news item of the day, and that is critical tiger habitat. Now, why was this in the news? Because recently Sariska Tiger Reserve in Rajasthan, well, Sariska Tiger Reserve has basically faced some problems, because Sariska Tiger Reserve has a core area. Okay, in that core area there were some marble mines. Now Supreme Court ordered to close those marble mines. Okay, now those people were not happy with this, because their businesses got impacted. Because in the core area of a tiger reserve, no human activity is allowed. That's why Supreme Court ordered to close those mines. Okay, but recently the government has announced that it is going to shift the boundaries of that core area, so that these mines can also exist. Now, this was in the news, but this is not important for us. What is important for us is to know what is this core area, what is this critical tiger habitat, okay? What is this? And under which law does this exist? Clear? So let's talk about that, because questions can be asked from this area only. What is core area? What is critical tiger habitat? So let's talk about critical tiger habitat, okay? So any tiger reserve, as you can see, any tiger reserve will have a core area and then will have a buffer area. Okay, in core area of a tiger reserve, almost no human activity is allowed. No human activity is allowed. And then there is an area outside the tiger reserve which is known as the transition area. There human activity is allowed. And then between the outside area and the core area is the buffer area. In buffer area, limited human activity, limited tourism is allowed. Clear? So this core area is also known as critical tiger habitat, CTC. Okay, And it is in this critical tiger habitat in Sariska Tiger Reserve, there were some mines. So Supreme Court ordered their closure, but now the government is redrawing the core area to basically allow those marble mines to continue. Okay. Now, what is the legal framework under which this CT critical tiger habitats are formed? So, critical tiger habitats are legally designated under Wildlife Protection Act 1972 because tiger reserves started under Project Tiger, which was an initiative to conserve tigers, right? So under Project Tiger, tiger reserves would be formed, and in those tiger reserves, there would be a core area called critical tiger habitat. This area would be designated under Wildlife Protection Act. The power to designate a particular area as critical tiger habitat lies with state government in consultation with an expert committee. Okay, and then state committee notifies this area. This process must also ensure the protection of forest rights of scheduled tribes, because there are some certain scheduled tribes who have been living in that area for generations. Now you can't say this is a core area, so get out. So core area should be designed in such a way that the rights of scheduled tribes are taken into account. Now, activities prohibited under CTH, construction is not allowed, forestry like logging and timber harvesting is not allowed, intensive tourism is not allowed, animal grazing is not allowed, and many such activities which basically require a lot of human presence, that is not allowed. Clear? So remember, CTH is part of tiger reserves, core area of tiger reserve, and it is designated by state government under Wildlife Protection Act. Remember this part, okay? And with that, we conclude today's session. Today's session has been a little longer, but I hope you understood each and everything, okay? If you did not, then you can always ask me your doubts. Use this comment section, judiciously ask me your doubts, and I'll be happy to reply to all of them. Alright? Alright then. On that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.